Call the management system. Have the conversation. I'm going to say, how can we help you? What do we got to do to help?
Help me help you.
You are hurting everybody.
Bum, bum, bum.
Hey, Diva.
Hey, Kelly.
So today we're going to talk about something that we talk about a lot. We're going to talk about,
Accountability?
to the public. And we're going to talk about how people need to just maybe come up with like a baby accountability plan to start with. Because like I just was sharing with you, got a lot of clients we're talking about accountability with, and like they turn ghost white and the air goes out of the room. They're like, whoa, that's a big change. And I say, well, let's just start with dialing up the heat a little bit. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so let me ask you, when you think accountability, what comes to your mind?
Knowing what the expectation is.
Knowing what the expectation is. I think I was going to mind like a little bit of consequence if I don't get the job done.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, I guess I'm taking a step back. Like, accountability for me is having a set expectation and knowing what will happen if it's not met.
Yes, I think that that's a very good component. So it's like I think that the word accountability and transparency actually go very nicely together, like a
Yeah.
nice steak and a bottle of wine.
I know that when I'm talking with clients, one of the things is, well, I need to hold my CSR accountable to X. And I'm like, do you have a process for that? Do they
Right.
know what the expectation is?
Yeah.
So,
My bad. My apologies. Go ahead.
no, you're good. You're good. I was just going to say, so sometimes we have to take a couple steps back. And I think baby steps is the right way to look at it. But we have to like lay a foundation so then we can have an expectation.
Yeah. And so there's two other things that come into my mind, right? When I think about accountability. First of all, I love you say, I want to hold my CSR accountable. I always start with saying, okay, so tell me, are you holding yourself and your leadership team accountable? Because if it's not up there, what I find is always like, well, they don't do what I say. They don't do this. It's like, okay, so what is your level of accountability as an owner, if you're solo owner or a leadership team or executive team, whatever it is, partners, what is your level of accountability to getting things done into each other? Because I see a lot of times everyone wants to push accountability down the pike, but they don't always want to look around the pike.
Right.
Do you see that a lot?
Yes, I see that quite often. A lot of times they're like, well, this needs to happen, but they can't hold themselves accountable or there is no accountability for them. And I think sometimes because it's not clear what they should be doing either.
Sometimes it's not clear. Sometimes that mindset of like, well, I'm in charge.
So I shouldn't have to do that.
Yeah. Like, well, I'm in charge. So, oh, well, I'm working on it. I'm so busy. They do the same thing that they get mad that the team does, right?
Right.
And so I think the first step is you got to check yourself in the mirror. Are you holding yourselves accountable? Are you holding yourself the other way? So I think that's one. And the other thing I always think about when I think about accountability is like the sheer terror, like leadership teams start underwriting the risk.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, well, if I tell Steven that he needs to show up on time, he's going to go find another job. And I want you to say that out loud one more time. So if you tell Steven he needs to be there when the start of work happens, you're worried that he's going to find another job.
Yeah. I mean, kind of off topic, but on topic, I think one of the biggest struggles I have when I go into agencies too is they're like, well, I don't want to upset Susan. So I'm going to make Susan's job everything she likes doing.
Oh, yeah, no, that's not good.
And I'm only going to hold her to what she really enjoys. She doesn't have to do anything else because I don't want her to quit because she's been here for a while. And at least she shows up. She might cause
she fogs a
problems.
mirror.
Customers are only okay with her, but she shows up.
Yeah, so she fogs a mirror, and I don't want to train somebody. And then here's my other favorite. Kelly, hiring is so hard. I always like to say correct, but that's not a reason to not hold people accountable. I love it. Finding producers is hard. All of it's hard. And by the way, it's been hard for the 22 years I've been in this industry. I don't recall a time when it wasn't hard. And so you got to decide, are you going to build them? Are you going to buy them? What are you going to do? Like maybe you have to pay more money. Maybe you've got to go find some other people. Maybe you've got to go build people. But the idea it's hard. So we're going to hold someone like what I feel like we just keep lowering the standard, right? Yeah. So it's acceptable not come in. It's acceptable not to cross sell. It's acceptable not to do renewal calls. It's acceptable to do all these things. So what is acceptable is you show up for most of the day. It's acceptable for you to be backlogged all day. And it's acceptable if you pick up some of the phone calls and respond to some people. And that's not an award-winning organization.
No.
So then the other component that I see is leadership teams. And this is where I think you and I get involved, right? And I just got off the phone with somebody who is on her way to terminate somebody. leadership teams end up spending so much time talking about this one person that if they just had a conversation with the one person, all the things would get better, right?
Yeah. We're so afraid. I think a lot of times we're just so afraid of the conversation, or we get in our own mind that it becomes a bigger problem internally than it does externally.
Well, then the other component is it's like, well, what did we do? It wasn't clearly documented. There should have been on point 2 A, B, C, D, F. We probably should have written it down better. I'm like, you're not going to hold someone accountable for one mistake. You're holding them accountable because it's a chain of mistakes, right? If your leadership team is talking about the same person over and over, and like people who work with me know, I'm like, cool. This is the last time you're allowed to mention their name to me. You're either going to go talk to them, write them up, put them on a PIP, or we're never speaking about it again. Like, which one are you doing?
Yeah.
And then people kind of like, oh,
I only get one more. I better do something about it.
And listen, I get it's hard. You got to pick your heart though. You got to pick is it harder to keep the person or is it harder to address it? And I'm going to tell you guys this, what ends up happening is you end up going on so long that then addressing it becomes like calling them into the principal's office. And you need to just address things early and often and on point so that it's not so terrible.
And you need to have the conversation, but then whatever you say you're going to do for accountability needs to happen. I think that's the other thing is we're like, okay, well, we're going to have the conversation with Susie today. And they have the conversation and they document it, and then they don't follow up for 3 months. And then they're like, Susie's doing the same thing again.
Susie's doing the same thing again.
And it's like, well, what was the accountability? What was the check-in? What was the follow-up? Who was monitoring Susie?
Who's monitoring Susie? And also too, why are we allowing subpar behavior to be accepted?
Yeah.
And we encourage agencies to go a little overstaffed so you can terminate. You've already got someone else in the wings where you don't need every single person under the sun. But agencies run so understaffed because they hate training and they hate all that stuff that it's a problem. So let's talk about ways people can take, like, just turn the dial up on accountability. Because I do think that if all of a sudden one day you come in like the Gestapo and you're like, bah, 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 people are gonna be like, who are you? And it's not sustainable. It's like when I do crash diets, right? Like, I'm not eating carbs ever again.
For 3 weeks.
Said the Christmas cookies I inhaled before this meeting, right?
So I think the first step to start, or the first thing to look at, is job descriptions. They can be life-changing. I also like to say we should build the job description around the need of the agency, not around the person.
Oh, tell me more, Stephen, because this is one of your favorite topics.
It is one of my favorites. I could preach about this one for hours. So I think that if we build the job description around a specific person, then we have to go try to find their duplicate if something doesn't work out. Because we're so used to having that role tailored to the person. And normally, if we're tailoring the responsibilities to a specific person, that wasn't necessarily what they should have been doing to begin with. So if we create the needs of the agency and divide it out into job descriptions, and have people work off those descriptions, it's easier to plug and play somebody else if that person wants to leave.
Also, who the heck gets to do only the things they want to do every day?
Well, I mean, I do, but that's only because I love my job and I love
all
everything.
parts of it. You love writing blogs.
I love blogs.
Yeah, you love all the things, right?
All the things. Well, there's an action plan in place for when I don't love them, right?
Right. As a
So
team.
a clear description with metrics, I think, is huge. It also I think a lot of people are afraid of like going to the team and being like, okay, here's a job description. This is kind of what your role is. I was afraid to do it when I was running an agency. I gave it to them. They're like, oh, this is what you want me to do. And this is how many of those I have to do. Okay.
Well, the job descriptions to me are even more than that because one, I don't think a lot of agencies know where to start because you might have only worked one place and it's muddy and it's mucky and you're thinking, what do they do today? Not what do I want them to do? And so I really recommend people go to our website, look at our job description templates. For $200, you get 12 templates. I don't know what that equals out to be, like what, $15 each, or I don't know. I'm not good with math when it comes like that. But and then it gives you the template starting place. You could see what thing people should be doing. But I also love the idea of like, hey, job descriptions of you're always backlogged because you're doing things you shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
Like you need to send that off to so-and-so. I don't like the way they do it. Yeah. Again, my job description, my agency, my plan, my choice. You get to
Yeah.
go do that now. And people then, it's like, if you want to be backlogged and do it yourself, that's fine. You just got to be on point and just do somebody else's job for them. That's great if that's what you want to do.
Well, and I think even at the leadership or executive level, I'm working with two owners right now that they both love their job, but they keep getting in each other's way because they're not sure who should be doing what. So we had to do strengths and weaknesses, and whoever was better at HR is now taking over all HR. Whoever was better at sales is now taking over the sales department. Like, they're still going to have weekly meetings to communicate what's happening with the team as a whole, but now it's clearly defined and the team knows who to go to for what.
Right. That's
Instead of running to this one because they're available, or that one because they're available, or they didn't like this answer, so they go to that one.
Yeah, that's powerful. I also think with job descriptions too, it's, you got to keep evolving with them. They're not just a document you keep out there. Like, we pull up ours like on our 90-day reviews. Is it still on point? We make adjustments, we tweak it. But I think if it's a document that you send out once, no one really remembers it too. So it's all how you're going to use it. And every job description, Stephen, also needs performance metrics.
Metric. I need to
that
make
way
X
that it's
amount of
not
calls per
feelings.
day. I need to do this. I need to do that.
Yeah, it's not just feelings, it's the whole scenario, right? So then the second part is step 2, if you want to ratchet up accountability, like, and you got to do these like launch job descriptions, give it 4 to 6 weeks. Okay. Like, this is a slow burn. And I know for many of our agencies, they like, let's just do everything right now. If you do all 60 steps right now, watch your team go, "Mwah," and then again, it's not sustainable. You need to just put calendar reminders. Okay, now it's time to do X. The next one I think people struggle with, because in a lot of agencies, we find that they're somewhat understaffed, might be the wrong word, but like the staff isn't aligned correctly. So in the US military, people only manage 6 to 8 people, right? And so, and we're experiencing this as we grow right now, is trying to get people that have enough tenure to take on more of leadership roles and go ahead and say, hey, okay, you could be a team leader. There needs to be some level of management and leadership. And a lot of agencies run very loose. Well, there's an owner and then there's people. And as you get bigger, you cannot hold everybody accountable. All you're going to do is put out fires because you find stuff and find stuff and find stuff. Where if there's a layer in between, if even a team lead, they have a book, they're still doing part of that job, but maybe it's reduced so that they can lead and manage and execute. That's a big deal. So our next one is one-on-one meetings with every single member.
I absolutely adore one-on-one.
Yeah. And they're super awkward at first, right? Like, okay. Like, what are we going to do? What are we going to talk about? And don't expect the staff to be like, oh, I'm so excited to meet my manager.
Right. But then do it. Okay. Flash forward, stop doing it after 2 months and see what chaos breaks loose.
Right. Kind of like renewal calls.
Yeah.
So you want to get them going. I think they should have an agenda. I think this is a time for you to show leadership and say, they're not going away. We're going to keep doing these. Like, even though you don't want them, and maybe you as a leader have to like really put a smile on your face to get going, right? You have to fake it till you make it, but we like to say a couple things. Win of the week, right? And by the way, we do these every week. Some people might be falling out of their chair. Like, that's a whole day. Well, ours are a half hour generally. Some of them are an hour if you're newer and you just need more time or attention. But the idea is if you can't manage that, then you need to find more leaders in your organization. You need to identify. It doesn't mean always hiring somebody. Maybe it does. Maybe it means hiring a chief operating officer. Maybe it means hiring an administrative assistant. Maybe it means getting rid of some of your clients if that's the struggle. But your team is your biggest investment. Even in our company, when I look at it's payroll, like, and if I'm not making managing this team a priority, guess what? I'm burning my biggest resource, which is payroll.
Yeah.
And that's how I like to look at it. But we say within the lesson of the week, review the metrics. So this will help them start getting comfortable with their job description. Metrics.
That's all the metrics.
All the metrics. And then open list of items, things that they want to talk about, things that you want to talk about. And this is also awesome because this is also a starting point for the next steps, which is kind of having people understand a bit more about the metrics and understand them when it's just one-on-one private. So I know you did one-on-ones. How would you run them, Stephen?
I did one-on-ones with every person every week at the beginning just to make sure we were all learning what we needed to learn. And I got a feel for where everybody was at because after managing the agency for a couple of years without them and bringing in new people and not being the day-to-day contact, I was like, oh, we're doing great. And I was like, or are we? Because we started looking at metrics. And it was like, okay, these calls aren't being made. This person's really good at cross sells, but they're horrible at coverage reviews. Like they can sell all day long, but they can sell a new policy, but they can't sell a $14 endorsement.
Ooh, scandal and lies.
Right. And I mean, that sounds great, but then we had to go back and take a step back and come up with a training plan for each person of if this is your position and these are the metrics we hold everybody in that position accountable to, how can we get you to that point? Or do we need to find you a different position? You're not a bad employee, especially if you're great at sales, but maybe service is not your strong point and we need to look at moving that to more of a sales position. But I think that it was just so every week it was a one-on-one every week. Then it went to every other week because there was 25 people and that was a lot of one-on-ones.
Then you got team leaders.
And then we appointed team leaders. So each team leader, everybody reported to the team leads, and then I did one-on-ones once a month with everybody on the team, but I did weekly one-on-ones with the team leads to know. One of our topics was 15 minutes of where's each person on your team at, and we reviewed the metrics. So the team knew that they were reporting up, but then they were also reporting back down to as well. It was a two-way communication.
Absolutely. Which leads us to step 3. So think of it this way.
Sharing
There's job descriptions with metrics. And I'm just going to say this, the metrics. I feel like metrics and hiring are the two things that I'm so sick of hearing excuses by in this industry, right? Like hiring's hard. Cool. Keep doing it. You just need to find one person. I don't care if you get 200 bad resumes. We're gone. The days where you put a newspaper ad out and get 20 people who are qualified are gone. Gonesies. We're now in the advent where online dating and swiping left and right is the same thing as applying for a job. There'll be a burn rate. There'll be a burnout rate. You have to just keep at it. It is a numbers game out there, people. And you got to take a chance on people and fire them fast if they don't work. That's the name of the game. Okay. So you need to just understand that the world has changed. If you're living in the past, get over it, take some chances. Most people will burn out and not call you back anyway. So just don't get overwhelmed by it, but live in the new world. This is a new world of hiring. Every time I turn on the television, Indeed, ZipRecruiter, everybody's telling everybody to look for a job. But I'm also going to say this, so short-sighted on your hiring needs. If people are your biggest expense, that you don't get your butt out to every carrier meeting, you don't go and do your CE credits in person, and you network and you meet people and you stay in touch with them and you like their social media posts and you have coffee with them once a quarter. And I will tell you, that is a great way to recruit because most people don't want to look for a job. They want to call somebody when they're ready to have a job. And if they know that you're open and willing, you will be the first person that they call.
Well, I think one of the other things on hiring is there's people now that are in places in their life because of, I mean, let's just say COVID, that, dynamics at homes have changed. Some jobs have changed, work life has changed, people have started their own business, all these different things. But it's also now allowed some people to be able to try something new or do something that they like. So we tend to disqualify overqualified candidates, if you know what I'm saying. So somebody could have years of experience in management or in sales or in other things, but then we're like, oh yeah, but they're way overqualified. This is going to be a boring job for them. But some people, that's what they're looking for. They're ready to give their all to something completely different than what they've done for the last 10 years. So I think that we need to look at those opportunities as well and not be like, oh, well, they were making 100,000 before. They're not going to want to work for 40.
Or my favorite is everyone assumes.
Yeah.
They assume that they know what the person's making. They assume that this is what they want. And I'm like,
Yeah.
just, hey, try it. But like even we're going to be looking for a new candidate and I've been working leads on that, like knowing, hey, because we have a roadmap and we know we're going to add and we know this. And so whenever I'm at events, like you might say, hey, I love talking to our clients. I love talking to our prospects, but I'm also looking around at the vendors and other people and saying, this person's interesting. I want to have lunch with them because as the job as the CEO, I have to be looking for the next best talent. Right. And so if you are just using Indeed or ZipRecruiter, you are only going to find the people who are desperately looking for a job. Not saying that that's not an option, but guys, like, oh, I don't go to the carrier events or waste my time. Not if you look at your job as part of it is finding the best talent, because some of those people are out there to network too. Shocking, right? And the same thing with your data, by the way, your data, it's 2022. It is time to embrace getting your freaking procedures right and your freaking reports right. So it's wrong. It's wrong. It's wrong. No, don't get me wrong. It is a journey. And a lot of times with our clients, as we're doing data, it takes 6 months. We're learning about their data. We're learning about the processes. It's usually 6 things. Like the rewrite process is off and the new business process is off. So we solve one and it's still a problem. Then we go solve the next problem. And that's why it's a 6-month process sometimes just to get the reporting to be accurate. I like to say it's as accurate as what we're given, right?
Mhm.
So, but to get that beyond that, that's where we all need to make sure that you are embracing it. And if no one in your agency knows how to make it right, call the management system, have the conversation, right? Like call the person that you spend a ton of money with every month to
And
find
ask for
out how
help.
to make it right.
Yeah.
Because the next one is sharing metrics. And this is where I'm going to tell you guys, the job descriptions one-on-ones are like, okay, like those are basic things. No one's really going to fight you a ton with them. The one-on-ones might be a little awkward, but they're not going to fight you. But when you
They're
start
gonna
sharing
fight you on the
metrics,
data.
yeah, like it's a few weeks of some bitter beer face, right? Like, so when we talk about sharing metrics, means like a leaderboard. This is how overdue everybody is. This is the sales leaderboard. These are the things that we have. And I want everybody to understand that it's like stepping on the sale after Christmas. Okay. What is the damage I did? And a lot of people in the beginning be like, why'd you show everybody that? Well, because there are company metrics in our company management system. And by the way, at this point in our accountability plan, there's no stick, right? There's no consequence. These are just putting them up there for public display. You're not getting fired. You're not getting terminated. You're not getting run up. You're not getting slapped on the wrist. You're not getting stoned out back. We're just simply
Right.
sharing that Sally for 3 weeks in a row has been 700 activities overdue. And we need everybody to know if you keep giving Sally stuff and Sally keeps saying, yes, she's going to be 700 activities overdue. Sally needs to know that she needs to stop duplicating activities.
Yeah.
But somehow when those metrics become more public, guess what happens?
Solutions happen.
Yes. I know some agencies have negative feedback when they start showing it. I encourage you just to work through that. Okay.
Well,
Again,
and some of the feedback I got was like, well, I know I did 17 of X. And I'm like, okay, cool. Let's take a look at that after the meeting. And then we go and look at it. I'm like, but you didn't log it in correctly.
hey, if it's not in the management system,
Right. Like, so
didn't
glad
happen.
you did that, but you didn't document it. So we can't track it. We're pulling numbers from the system, not from the magical world of your brain.
Yeah. So we just need everybody to just sit in the moment, realize it's going to be a little awkward, but how about when you put them up there, you let them be on the screen and you celebrate the wins, you don't mention the losses. Let everybody marinate in their losses for a minute.
Yeah.
And then as time goes on, be like, when the losses come, and say, how can we help you? What can we do as a team to help you hit your goal? What can we do as a team to help you get your backlog down? What can we all do so that you're just bringing resources? There's no shame. There's no guilt. This is a team. We all got to hit our mission together. We got to flawlessly execute. We're the Navy SEALs here. So what do we got to do to help? A lot of times you find the person got to help themselves.
Help me help you.
So that's 3. Number 4 then is, and this is weird because it's like the leadership team being held accountable. So I'm assuming that most leadership teams do an okay job at this. Maybe not the greatest, but they're not all bust outs, like going out for martini lunches, which sounds great right now. On a side note. And then kind of going about their business. I'm assuming there's a general level, but now I need the leadership team to step up their game, right? I need your one-on-ones to be flawless. I need you to review people's job descriptions. I need you to have chats with people if offline. I need to make sure your reports are coming on time. I need to make sure you're looking at the reports. So if you need to level up your game to show people that you're holding yourself to a new level of accountability and responsibility of the leadership team so that they follow suit.
So one of the things we like to recommend is running reports and then showing them individually during the one-on-one. I love taking it to the next level where they had to run their own report because I believe that they should know how to get the information out of the system just as well as I should. So I trained the team to run the reports that we were going to be looking at. So there was no surprises. They had time to run them, they had to submit them, and then we reviewed them together. So if there was a surprise, it was because they didn't run their own report or they didn't review it ahead of time.
Yeah. Then it's another level of account.
Right. It's kind of like that reverse accountability. Like, it shouldn't be a surprise if you did what I told you to do.
Can we also talk a little bit about what you said to run their own reports, not have a side hustle spreadsheet?
No, I hate spreadsheets.
Okay, if your team, because you don't trust the management system, you're operating off of a spreadsheet, that's not the same thing. Get your management system to be right. Your management system is wrong. I guarantee you that spreadsheet is wrong. And here's the great news about it. You still don't have good data. You're asking people to do work twice. And it's a side hustle. It's like cheating on your spouse, okay? Your spouse is the management system. And now you're going to go outside of it to go to a spreadsheet because you think it's attractive, easier, sexier, simpler. Think about the bills and the budget, okay? Like, you are hurting everybody, okay? You're hurting everybody when you do this. So don't go have your side hustle spreadsheet.
No.
The next one is, carrots and sticks. So I walk into agencies and they're like, I don't know what's wrong. We have all of these incentive plans. People get free lunches every day and they wear jeans and they get bonuses and I pay them 700% of first year commission. And then I give them 7 years Christmas bonuses. And I just don't understand why they're not motivated to cross sell.
They just don't get it.
I just don't get it. And then I say, okay, cool. So what happens if they don't cross sell? What do you mean? So like what happens? Like they don't, is there a stick? Do they get written up? Is there a consequence? Do they still get the bonus if they're not hitting the minimum standard? Well, no, we just like to be positive and encourage people. And then I look and I'm like, they're too comfortable to do uncomfortable things. So your incentive plan is too much. You went the other way.
Right.
You're gluttonous.
Well, and it's almost like, it's kind of like a participation trophy. Like everybody gets a reward for doing nothing. Surprise! There's no consequence for not doing it. We just give everybody this.
And this is what I want to say is like, if you're giving up bonuses, like imagine it's kind of like how I feel about the IRS, right? Like if instead of having money taken out of your paycheck every week, like people had to physically write the check to the IRS every April, like the government would be completely different because we would be so ticked over sending them thousands and thousands of dollars and not really knowing where the status of everything is, right? And that's not like political. I don't care what party you're at. I think in general, the government just doesn't know how to manage money. So it's the same thing. Like imagine you personally took your back pocket out and had to put $100 bills on someone's desk. Would you feel differently about how you giving them that bonus?
Maybe.
Or is it like, well, we give everybody a bonus? Well, maybe everybody doesn't deserve a bonus. And so this is where we come into the idea that you need a minimum standard, just a minimum one, to qualify. And if not, you're not in good standing, which means you don't get whatever incentive, bonus, all of the things that come in. Yeah, it's just, you're just not in good standing. You didn't contribute enough to get this added reward for performance. And I recommend you make that so dumbly low that it's not a big deal. And then you keep ratcheting it up. What do you think?
I absolutely agree. I think that you need to start somewhere, but then increase the skin in the game or increase what is required till you get to where it needs to be.
Yeah. And you just keep kind of gently, oh, that's cool. How about we could do more? How about we could do a little bit more? We could do a little bit more. You want to do a little bit more?
Let's make magic happen.
But honestly, somebody at that point that's not hitting the minimum standard, I have to tell you guys this, you cannot give them that bonus. And I fight with agencies. Well, they worked really hard. It's not their fault our largest account went out of business. No, but if you want to do something, give them a gas bonus, give them a summer bonus, give them something else, but do not give them a performance bonus. They did not earn that. The agency did not grow. We have to identify that we have to be in accountability is performance-based. It's not nice guy-based.
Absolutely.
And then our final one, Stephen, the accountability plan.
The accountability plan. Bum, bum, bum. I don't think an accountability plan has to be a bad thing either.
No.
So an accountability plan is just setting expectations with guidelines of how we're going to make sure that the accountability is happening.
What happens if, like, let's just get it all out there. These are the rules, kind of like laws, right? Like if you drink and drive, you're going to get arrested. If you don't pay your bills, there's a late penalty. Like it's just all up and out there to say, this is what's going to happen. Right.
I think a good accountability plan is documenting too, like what we expect of you, but then what you should expect from us to get you there.
Yeah, it's a two-way street. Like if you're struggling, here's what we're going to do. And it's just nice and easy. And in our accountability plan, anybody can hold each other accountable. It's not always coming from the top. So like if Stephen is frustrated with me, we actually have an email template. So I know that he doesn't have to think too hard and it's not overwhelming, but it's like, hey, Kelly, when you don't do X, Y, Z, which I'm perfect, so I never ever happen. But when we don't do X, Y, Z, then what ends up happening is I get delayed and this is the other things. And then 3 other people get bumped and I can't plan my week. And I just really need you to take this request seriously. And a lot of times people are like, oh my God, you're right. I was kind of in my own bubble. I totally spaced. I forgot that you need to plan your week. That's not cool. I'm going to do better. And they prioritize. Right. Yeah. And then level 2 is if it goes a second time, the manager's copied on it. So like each other can get each other's shiz together. And then the manager's not even supposed to do anything. It's just to alert so that maybe the next one-on-one just, hey, just want to check in. What's up? Is everything cool? Now, by the third time though, it's a problem and it's a meeting with the leadership team.
Yeah.
And at this point, you're not in good standing.
No.
So you're not getting, and for people who are in commission, they actually get their commissions cut for that month because it's causing way too much chaos and work and you need to have a pain point. But this is the third time we've addressed it. Somebody should know, and the fourth time is a formal performance improvement plan where, great news, like we're putting all this that we want it to work. We want you to work. And at this point, the person who decides it's not for me, I'm going to go find another job. They pass and they do a 180, or they fail and we terminate. But this is something that, like, again, that's the fourth instance of something happening.
So it's not a surprise that it's being talked about.
We've had people on them before, and when it happened, it's the least dramatic thing on the world.
Yeah.
Versus, what do you mean you're cutting my commissions? It's like, you got the document, you know what's up. You were in 2. At 2, we told you. At 3, you weren't going to get the bonus. It happened again. This should not be a shocker.
Right.
And so I think that as people get there, then you just have to hold your ground on it. Where I think accountability fails is the leadership team fails their part of holding each other accountable to just having these conversations.
But Susie's my favorite.
What if Susan leaves? What will we do?
Well, if Susie's on an action plan for 4 times, it might not be a bad thing.
Yeah, like I said to our client who's got to go terminate someone today, I'm not the easiest person to work for, but I want a whole team of high performers. And so high performers like to be around other high performers. If I lower my standard, doesn't mean that the person's a bad person. It just simply means that they're just not a good fit here. And I'm okay with that. They need to go find a place that they are a better fit for. But it's my company, and I'm not going to lower my standards at my company because I think somebody is nice. Doesn't mean I wouldn't have a beer with them. Doesn't mean I don't care about their family. Doesn't mean any of that. It just means my job is to protect 12 people's incomes and 12 people's revenues and our hundreds of clients and their success. And if somebody isn't supporting that mission as a CEO, I have to take action. Otherwise, it's going to impact everybody.
Absolutely.
So any other final thoughts on accountability?
I think it can be a very positive thing. I think that it sets the expectation for the team and then they know what you're looking for. And I think that was what was most eye-opening for me when we started it was they were like, oh, that's what you want me to focus on. Okay. And it wasn't a bad thing. It was just I wasn't clear on what my expectations were either. So by documenting it, sharing it, showing it, I think it can actually build a stronger, better team with a better agency culture.
I also think too, like you pick your heart, right? It's hard holding people accountable. It's hard having no accountability. One has an end date where it gets better. And I just want to end with this. And I want to say this delicately because I don't want to scare people off, but you will turn people over. As you level up your standard is higher, which means that you need to just level up the people, right? And you're giving the people every opportunity to go on that journey with you. When they choose not to, it's time to be done. And that's why you need to look at recruiting strategies and having a bench and going out. And like the things that I tell agency owners to do are hard because they take time. Like if you started today going out networking and having coffee once a month and giving out your business card and saying, I got to go to 2 insurance events every single month. I got to do this. I got to do that. Just have a strategy. Hold yourself accountable to that. But I get so angry when I hear the 2 things, the data and the reports, and no one's put 5 minutes of time into it this month.
None.
That's my wish for everybody.
I love it.
Thank you, Diva, for coming on to my podcast.
Thank you, Kelly, for having me. I am passionate about this topic as well.
All right, everybody. Well, go have yourselves a great day. We're going to keep being ridiculously amazing over here. Check out our agency assessment. If you like what you heard, you could have your own accountability partner at APP to help you execute to help grow your agency. We'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.